All right, we are live. Welcome to the show today. My name is Doug Crow with the Author Your Brand Show, which is doing a actual training today. We're talking about becoming a hypnotic media guest. So this is a rapid training. It's like about 20 minutes. I might go 21. We'll keep it on 20 minutes, and hopefully you can ask questions, and I'll give you some answers that'll make sense to you. So let's get started. Let me get my little thingamajigger here, the window Chrome tab set up, and we'll get started. I'm going to have my wonderful operations woman, Rika, here on me as well. So Rika is with us as well. All right. So how to become a hypnotic media guest? There's a lot of people out there doing podcasts, radio, TV, and you've seen them. You've seen these people who are great on camera, engaging, you're captivated, and then you've seen the duds. You people just like boring, doesn't work well. And we're going to avoid those. We're going to give you a couple of key things to do today so you become the best guest imaginable. The big idea of being a guest, of course, is to get instant status and credibility, reach larger audiences, and most importantly, this is missed by a lot of people, is develop significant connections. And it's not necessarily the audience. I'll talk about that in a second. The problem is when you go on a show, you think it's about you, right? Your intention is not the purpose of the show. They have their own agenda. They're there to elevate their brand and make money with it. There's a lot of other agendas in this whole guest and host universe here, and you have to address that from a very tactical and strategic purpose. So my name is Doug Crow. I'm a journalist. I write for Entrepreneur Magazine, Newswire. I've been on ABC Radio, CBS Television. I've been speaking for a long time for Rotary and Kiyosaki, a bunch of other places. And I'm the founder of Author Your Brand Publishing. So I spent a few years in the media as in radio, TV, and film production. And as a host on ABC Radio in Chicago for a number of years, I learned a ton of what it's like to be a guest and a host on a program. So my story is I had a real estate academy, which was for training real estate investors. We had a 100% outbound marketing thing. You've done that yourself, right? I've done blogging and articles, and we went to trade shows, and we had a call center, outbound calls. It was wonderful, right? But it was expensive. I was speaking monthly. Of course, at that time I had no book, and I was relatively unknown. I was approached by radio and looking at it like, oh, way too expensive. But we had a goal. The goal was to take all of our outbound outreach and make it into inbound marketing. And that should be your goal too, because outbound marketing is sometimes predictable, but it's always associated with a cost that can sometimes hit or miss. When you have inbound marketing, not only is the cost can go down over time, but the most crucial factor of inbound marketing, having people call you, is your status, your position. You're not needy. You're not out there, hey, you want to buy my stuff? People come and you say, how do I work with you? How can I give you my money to work with you? And that is such a great place to be. I've done it before, and we're doing it again, of course, right now. And I want to show you how to do the same thing. The idea is strategic integration, integrating your media with your other marketing. Like I mentioned, I was a radio host on WLS. And after doing that for a number of years, I was told to write a book, and I did. And it was horrible. And that's a story for another day. I want to give you today 5 best practices for the advertiser, guest, host triad. There's a bunch of things here. I'm going to spend about 2 or 3 minutes on each one. I'm talking fast because I like to do these things in 20 minutes. I hate 1-hour webinars, master classes, because I don't have time for that. Number 1, host the host. A host has a lot of things going on. A lot of podcasters, especially, and people on the radio, some TV, but mostly podcasters do a lot of things. They're booking their guests. They're interviewing them. They're maybe uploading, editing. There's been a lot of functions there to get that show done. They've got a job to do, and it's a thankless job that costs them money. So your job as a guest is not to focus on yourself. Yes, of course, you're going to dropping your lead magnet and talk about your story and your journey. But that is supposed to be entertainment. You're supposed to add value to this person's show. And if you have that mindset that I'm here to help them, they're not there to help you. Of course they will by it's a correlation of being on the show. You're going to get elevated, but their intention is to either get advertising dollars or elevate their brand. So if you keep that in mind when you do these things, you're going to be an amazing guest on whatever you do. So keep that as a foundational element of why you're on any show. You're there to make the host look good. And there's a bunch of things you can do to do that. At the end of this training, you can get a 21-point checklist, and about, I don't know, 4 or 5 of those points are all about helping the host do a better job. And one thing I learned in radio is that when a guest came to me, and I can wing it, I can talk to anybody about anything. I have some experience with that. A lot of podcast hosts don't. So they tell you what they want to talk about. They send you what you should do, prepare for. That's for them. But when I was in the radio, I learned that journalism and podcasting and radio, they're lazy or they're busy, or perhaps both. If you actually give them the questions they can ask you, oh my gosh, it makes their job so easy. I can roll and have a conversation with anybody. And normally that works for a lot of podcasters, but not everyone. Some of them don't know what to ask them, how to make it interesting or entertaining. Your job, remember, is to make the host look good. So if you give them 7 or 8 or 10 questions that are, softballs or intriguing or something that's going to be very entertaining to cue them up for one of your best stories, it's going to go so much better for them and you, because you know the answers to these questions because you wrote them down, which, by the way, in live broadcasting, having a prepared answer is a nuanced thing. You cannot just read something, of course, but if it's a timed answer, it's wonderful for broadcast because we've got clocks going on. We got a commercial break. There's a very set schedule. And if you tell the host, hey, here's questions 1, my answer is about 2 minutes. Here's question 2, my answer is about 1 minute. It makes the show interesting. Podcasting is very loose. There's a lot of conversation and a lot of ups and downs, and it's very sometimes be very slow and even boring. Broadcast, no. It's got to be crisp, precise, and on point and interesting. So treat every podcast interview as though you were on television, right? They may go an hour or half an hour long, but in TV, you might get 5 minutes. Radio, 5 minutes to 20 minutes. So prepare your questions and answers and give the host the estimated time of your answer. Don't read it, just have a general idea. Which brings me to one small point that's not in the slide. I've had a few guests on, and most of them are great people. I love them all. But occasionally, they tend to go on forever. Sometimes I interrupt them, but most of the time I don't. I let them tell their story because I want to feature them. But don't do that. Keep your answers 1-2 minutes long. It makes for a much more interesting show when there's a conversation which has a purpose, entertaining, and has some intention behind it. So keep your answers short and to the point. Not too short, no one-liners, but keep them 1 to 3 minutes long. You'll feel much better about it. The host will like it. And by having that clock on there, hey, this is about 3 minutes long. If it's a live event, they can say, well, I got 2 minutes left on the clock for a commercial break. Let me ask you a 1 minute question so I can have my out. So these are really important things to do, making the host look good and helping him do a better job by giving him the questions, the answers, and the length of time for those answers. The third point on this slide is compliments and feedback. I can't tell you how many people have sent me a thank you note or asked me for feedback when I've been hosting programs. It never happens. Never. Maybe once or twice. Imagine if you were a guest on a show with whatever it is, podcast, radio, TV, doesn't matter. And after the show, if there's a moment, hey, Mr. Host, how did I do? They're always going to say you did great. What could I have done better? Right? Or the mother of all questions, how can I help you find your next guest? Right? No one's ever asked me that. Excuse me, one person has. I'll tell her about her later. So when you treat your host with his business in mind, oh my gosh, you're going to be remembered, and most likely, if they know other people in media, you'll get on other shows. So ask for feedback and always offer to help them with what they need, right? If you do that, your status is automatically elevated. Next, leveraging, right? If you want to get on the big show, right? We all want to get on Good Morning America or Today Show or something. That's great. But don't forget, there's a lot of other smaller platforms out there that need content. So being a local celebrity is much easier than you might think. A lot of my friends have been on local television. One of our clients has been on local TV 20 times in the Pittsburgh area. So what you need to do for that is have a kit. You have to have some experience, and you have to basically pitch your show idea to local media. TV is probably one of the hardest, but you can do it. Radio is pretty darn easy because they got to fill 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of content. So don't forget broadcast radio. Its podcast has done much, it has a much stronger growth rate, but radio is still out there and still relevant. And there's a key differentiator between radio and podcasting. This is very important to know. There are, I think, about over 2 million podcasts just in the USA right now. 2 million. How many radio shows are there? Not as many. Radio's been on longer. And the difference is the status of being on radio is still a little bit higher than a podcast, unless it's, Joe Rogan. But being on even my podcast, it's nice, it's good. We broadcast it, we get it out there. But I will tell you honestly, if you're on WLS like I was, it's a much higher elevation of status and credibility because they have limited bandwidth. There's only one, or in this case, 2 major AM stations, talk radio stations in Chicago. But there's at least 10,000 podcasts. So it's easier to get on podcasts. So your status is a little bit lower because almost anyone can get on any podcast. So I'm not saying don't, they're great. It's a great place to start, but keep thinking about upgrading your media presence on radio and television by leveraging your podcast episodes that you've done and build a professional EPK, electronic press kit, from your media, and then start pitching those local radio and TV stations. When you do get on anything, I see this a lot. People say, as seen on TV, as seen on ABC, as seen on Fox News. That's great. I'm glad you made that. Whether it's a press release or a broadcast interview, a lot of people use it for the same thing, and that's fine. But what I don't see happening often enough is people actually using their logo properly, right? It's great to have a logo as seen on Fox News, but if you don't have a link to it anywhere on your site, we see a lot of it, right? A lot of people put that stuff on their website. Does it mean anything if you don't see it? I don't know. I look at it, I'm a little skeptical. I'm like, maybe they were, maybe they won't. But as seen on, Fox and ABC and CBS, if there's no links, I'm going to guess it was a press release they paid a few $100 for, and that's what they're using, which is fine. However, take that image, whatever graphic, whatever logo you have on your site that you've earned that by either an article or an interview, and hyperlink that to the actual content, right? If you're on Fox Reno, or you're on ABC Atlanta, or you're on a digital news station in Columbus, Ohio, and you just had a press release done there, and it's a CBS, affiliate station, it's just a press release, take that URL from CBS Columbus or whatever it is, and link it back to your graphic on your website. That's a backlink to you. It's free real estate. You've earned it. And by having that link, it not only lets people click, oh yeah, they really were, validation, but it helps with your SEO as well. Next thing, infuriate someone on your show. Now, controversy is what sells. And there's a slippery slope here we'll get to in a second. But if you just talk about how wonderful things are and how you can help the world, you're going to put people to sleep. You don't have to be a shock jock. You don't have to, promote the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, that's not a good idea. But a little bit of controversy is always going to make for better media, right? We're not going to go Jerry Springer on people here, but calling out a nemesis is a good idea. And boldness in our culture is revered. If you're bold and clear and true to your word and yourself, that's great. But just being happy and positive and encouraging isn't enough. You need to also have a nemesis and call out what's wrong with the world or what's wrong with whatever you're doing to support yourself and your business. You're solving a problem. Don't forget to call out the problem. I remember reading some stories, and a friend of mine's actually produced a Rush Limbaugh show when he was still alive. And I think the number was around 30 to 40% of their listeners hated him. But the advertisers didn't care. That was just more eyeballs, more ears listening to his show. So he knew something that a lot of people avoid, which is a little bit of controversy. So take a look at what you do, what problem you're solving, and that's okay. You want to be positive naturally, but don't forget to call out your nemesis, whoever you're battling or whatever idea you're battling is fine. It's probably best not to call out an individual, but an idea, a category, an industry, totally fine to do. Sponsor yourself. A lot of people focus on getting my show big enough and then get sponsors to give me money so I can make money with my podcast. That's fine. You can do that. I did it at my radio show, and it was not a good idea because the sponsor started to take over. It was a very expensive show to produce, and he started to take over. So I would recommend sponsoring yourself right away. You don't have to have any audience for this, but when you do a show as a host, I'm switching hats here a little bit, don't forget to run some ads on your show. People expect it. And if you do them creatively and briefly, it can add more dimension, a little more professionalism to your show. When we did it, we started running our own ads for our company. Different narrator, little bumper music, and all of a sudden it's a show break, and now a word from our sponsor, and it was me. And that elevated my status some more. I ran my own show, my own ads, and occasionally other products that we could obviously make some money with. And finally, if you are looking to do radio, there's a thing called Remnant out there. To fill a radio slot 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, requires a whole lot of content. 24/7 programming is tough to fill. They have a whole lot of remnant inventory, just like in a carpet store. You go in a carpet store, you see these remnants, or they've cut out sections of carpeting. They can't sell a whole house. It's just enough for one room. You can get on the radio as from your whatever you're selling much more inexpensively than you think, and you can bundle a paid ad with your inventory. That's what we did. So we started a show. I was a guest first and became a host. Key point there. And then once we were a host, we asked to pick up their unused inventory, and I asked for free because I'm paying them a lot of money to run my ads and do the show. So don't forget, when you're in the major media as a host, there's a lot of nuance, a lot of opportunities out there that you might not know about that can be exploited and used to serve and help the show. Not you, it'll help you too, but focus on the show. Lastly, I've got some gifts for you in the last few minutes here. All the things I mentioned on this today are available to you in a ebook that we've created. I'm editing that right now. So in the meantime, I'm going to give you a free 21-point checklist that covers all the things I talked about today and a bunch more, about 15 or 16 more items on there to help you become a better guest on any media, podcast, radio, TV, even articles for that matter. But there's some great points in there. And of course, if you want to talk to me about this privately, you can go to dougcrow.link/call, and we can set up a 20-minute conversation. Tell me what you're doing. We can discuss your media strategy, how to become a better guest, and even how to be a host or do your own show on radio, TV, or podcast. We've done them all, and we're doing a new TV show, in fact, coming up in the next quarter. So it'll be a lot of fun. And I'll be inviting some of my guests, some of my clients to that as well. So look out for that. All right, my rapid training is completed. 18 minutes and 10 seconds. I'm proud of myself. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm available for questions. Now, this is my first live stream, so I'm not sure the questions are. They pop up the question chat. I think I see a couple in here. Let's see what we got here. Oh, look at that. Oh, Rika said, great show. Of course she did, because she's our project manager. Of course she can say great. Anybody have any questions? You can go ahead and I'll do this, show that there. Sorry about that, Rika. You can go ahead and go in the chat and ask a question about the media, about becoming a better guest. And of course, by registering for this event today, you can do that even on the recorded version. Just click below and there'll be an opportunity to register. I'll send you that gift to you and help you become a better guest on any show you desire. So any other questions out there? Anyone? Bueller. Go ahead and make one up. Rika or Jen or anyone else, you can make up a question. Just give me practice on the live stream. Come on. Here it comes. They're going to write something here. It can be a fake question, girls. It's okay. I don't mind. This is called dead air, by the way. You want to avoid that when you're doing a show where there's like radio silence. It's like, well, the show must be over. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. I think I'll just end it. If we have no questions, I think maybe Rika's typing something here. We'll kind of get it out there. Rika's watching on YouTube right now. Jen's watching on Facebook. Should we send a thank you note after being a guest? Amazing question. And I've only gotten 2 of those. I've been on maybe a couple of dozen shows as a guest. And man, a thank you note is so powerful now. With email and social media and chat bots, nobody writes and puts things, lick a stamp on the mail anymore. It's very rare. So when you get something in the mail, you're like, whoa, this person's a professional. So shout out to Lisa Wilbur, I was on her show. She sent me 3 pieces of mail so far, and it's just great. So yes, definitely send a piece of mail to every show you're on, thanking the host and the producer for being in the show. And don't forget that magic question: how can I help you? What other guests would you be interested in connecting with? Maybe I can give somebody in my network. Become an associate producer on these shows. You've got people they don't know. Introduce them, but ask first. Stephanie Smith asked, how do you come up with a plan? That's a great question, Steph. I'll give us about 2 minutes on that, and then we'll probably close out. A plan for a media program for yourself can be anything you design. It can be very robust. It can be very thin. It's kind of up to you on what you want to do. Some of our clients have businesses to run, and they can only afford time-wise to be in the media, once or twice a week or a month. I interviewed Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad Poor Dad on my radio show years ago. And he said that when he launched his first book, his first series, he was a media junkie. He would take any interview anywhere all the time, 24/7. That's a little bit much. That's really, Grant Cardone being everywhere all at once type of 10x strategy. And it's exhausting. But if you do it enough as a primer to get things going, it can work. So one overall strategy is to say, hey, I'm going to do this. You've got to have first a press kit, a professionally done press kit, which showcases you in print and audio and hopefully video. And you've got to have links in there and what you're talking about, why they should have you on their show. If you want to get some ideas and press kits, just email me. I'll send them to you. When you do that, you've got to actually have the media first. And once you've got that pulled together, you take that EPK, electronic press kit, and you go to every single local station within a 10, 20 mile radius, wherever you are, and you pitch them. And you send them a press kit in the mail and electronic, right? And then you do one thing that PR agencies know about that nobody does, which is to pick up the damn phone and call them, right? And talk to that admin, talk to the executive assistant and say, hey, my name is Doug Crow. I've got a book coming out. I think it'd be great for your audience. I'd love it. Can I send you over my EPK? She'll say yes. Then you follow up. Hey, I sent it to you. Did you get it okay? Yes, we did. Thank you very much. Is that a show? Is that a show that would be good for your listeners? Yes or no? Yeah, maybe, or yes, or no. If they say no, say, great, thanks for that information. What kind of guests are you looking for? Still serve the producer, the associate producer, the secretary, whatever, even if you're not going to be in that show. You want to build relationships with the media. They talk to each other. So it's called a stringer, right? I've got somebody for you. And you do that often enough, they're going to remember you. So now when you email or call, they'll pick up. They'll open the email. You're building relationships. And eventually, I'm pretty sure at some point, depending on what your business is, they're going to say, you know what? We'd like to have you on the show, right? It can work that way, but it takes time. And you've got to have intention to build the foundational element. Intentionally build relationships with the media. That's what it's all about. So that's the first part of the plan, Stephanie, is have a plan, right? What do you want to do? A little bit or a lot? And then electronic press kit, and then you just go out there and do it. A normal PR agency does this. They spent years building up their reputation and relationships with folks. And it takes time to do it. You can hire someone to do it with the funds. I hired a good friend of mine now I spend about $5 or $10 grand a month to have a PR agency do all this for me. So if you're on a lean budget, you go ahead and start and do it yourself. It's not rocket science. It just takes pick up the phone, being consistent, and serving. So that's the medium-sized answer. Anthony Ventura asked, great question, Anthony. How can I help you with your projects? My gosh, look at that. He's already doing what I suggested. Well, Anthony, I'll tell you what, we'll take it offline, but yes, you can definitely help. You can help out by sharing my content. I'd love to build a bigger audience for myself. So if you guys want to share this, I'm going to be very, very grateful. And heck, I even give you a free press release. So stay in touch on that. 24 minutes. That was like a 20-minute plus question. So I'm good with that. Any questions? That's my contact information, dougcrow.link/call. You can also just send me an email, doug@dougcrow.com. If you register for this event, I'm going to drop that 21-point checklist for you. If for some reason you didn't register, you're just watching it live, just go to authorbrand.com and contact us. I'll send it over to you. Thanks so much.